Oh boy.
Welcome at the Introverted Business Experience. This here is Dustin Lunde, if I pronounced it correctly, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hey, Brent. Thanks for having me. My name is Dustin Lunde, co-founder of Best Life Group. We do a lot of things, all small business growth, which does include marketing, as well as bookkeeping services, coaching, etc. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah. For people, well, most people won't know this. Dustin, shortly put, is a competitor of mine in one of my agency spaces, and I'm very sorry if I sound stuffed. My nose is stuffed right now, so my voice is a bit different. Now, for people watching this, those who know me know that I don't really take competition in the sense of competition, right? I think it's better to win big. And I always found Dustin to be quite an intriguing character, especially because, I rather learn from my competitors than, you know, Dustin, you're in the same industry as me. You know how drama driven certain people are. Um, I think it's better to learn from each other than point out the flaws of each other. It's better to learn together. And that's something I feel we've been doing correctly. Dustin here, he doesn't specialize in one thing like SEO. Like he serves them all, and actually hosts a big summit for his crowd, his audience in the industry every year, I believe, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Now that's all very fascinating and all, but what made you start in the bounce house industry? What made you start in general? Why internet marketing?
Really long response to the answer, so I don't know how much time we have. Or do you want the short and sweet, or do you want the little bit elongated one?
Go ahead, tell me exactly why.
So I'll give you a little bit of background, and then we'll jump into this. The background I'll keep pretty concise. So early on in my career, I had a huge love for all things sales. The reason I love sales was because I was able to offer people like solutions to whatever problem it was they had, and I've always been a firm believer on the sales side, to not be salesy, and try to push things on people. So I was given the luxury early on of being able to really craft what I did as far as delivering services to people around what I believed in my heart, which was to just deliver real value and real service. And when I stepped outside of sales, I, for whatever reason, wanted an opportunity inside of management. I thought I had something to prove, and I was given the opportunity. And then fast forward many years of growing teams and excelling in operations here over in the States. I was sitting inside of a company that was really quickly growing, and there were some ethical things in which I didn't agree with. So I decided to connect with a really good friend of mine who's actually the co-founder of Best Life Group as well, Michael Walser. And I said, "Hey, man, I'm looking to move from the beach. I want to come back to Atlanta. Like, what do you want to do together?" And he is like, "We've got so many things we could do, but low hanging fruit. I've got some opportunity in this bounce house space if you're interested." And I'm like, "Man, like it's a fucking inflatable. Like it can't be that hard, right?" So I come up here for a weekend, spend time with their team, and I'm like, "Yeah, you put it in the trailer, you go blow the thing up, you secure it, family has a good time, and come hell or high water, like people want entertainment in their life." So packed things up, moved my family up here, and spent a couple of years inside of operations in this space that we know, which is all things party and event rentals, and things were going exceptionally well. Didn't really spend any time as far as like sales and marketing were concerned at that point because I was so heavy inside of operations, and then COVID hit. So we at this point, like early 2020, had decided that we wanted to have a summit of sorts with a bunch of what we thought were really great business owners in this space. So we invited them out from all over the U.S. To come spend some time with us. Everyone booked their flights, got their tickets. Everybody was going to teach different things. And then we got the news of COVID. Everybody freaked out. Everything started shutting down. Nobody came. And so we as a business, like everybody, we didn't know what was going on. We had to continue to change our messaging, not only to our consumers, but our team, on a continuum, because we were all kind of in the dark. And once the lights kind of, I guess came back on, so to speak, here in Atlanta, um, as a business to be viable, because everybody was still so scared, we had to decide, like, how do we turn, what our messaging is, which is, all things, we deliver fun, or smiles to you, to something that feels safe and secure. And so we decided, at this point, we need to change this, and now we're the safest way to play. And so, with some really simple messaging, and then at this point, now marketing to these people, we were able to revitalize, Jumptastic and the sister brands at that point. It wasn't the best year ever, but by all means, we were able to at least stay in the black and take care of people here. And then through that process, I guess, because I had developed such a really great operational team, or they were just so operationally sound, Brent, I was able to kind of pivot and focus on all things marketing, which I didn't realize at the time, at least, how closely intertwined it was to sales. And I was able to take a message that I could deliver to just you, and fix, just your problem, and deliver it to like thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah.
And and I don't to be like the subject matter expert or anything. I'm just really good at a lot of different stuff. Through a lot of trial and error and learning from people, whether it be like yourself, or a lot of other really great people in the space, was able to retain information, try out new things, and we started seeing phenomenal ROI on stuff that we were doing. And my background inside of operations, like, I'm a firm believer that if you don't measure it, it's not managed.
Yeah.
So from a digital perspective, I sat down and said, okay, like, we've got all these folks that we've worked with in this digital space that say they're doing things for us as far as SEO or ads, et cetera, but nothing's tracked really well. We're not getting reporting or anything, unless we ask for it, and then it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. We said, we got to be better than that. So we started developing all these tracking measures internally. And then through the successes that we saw there, a lot of these business owners that wanted to come to this summit that we had reached out and said, hey, can we still come see you guys? And we said, well, we won't have a summit, but yeah, if you want to come, do the dog and pony show and check out, our brand, by all means. And slowly but surely, these guys started coming in, whether it be by themselves or with their team, and they were all having the same issues and opportunities inside of their business. And I kind of took a step back, and I'm like, man, like, all these guys and gals really want to take it to the next level, because that is all things entrepreneurship, but they were, in the nicest way possible, they were like a dull Swiss Army knife. They were just okay at a lot of things, and they were having the same challenges. They didn't know who necessarily to trust. They were trying to learn all these things on their own. They didn't have an established team. And so when Michael and I sat down, we kind of peeled back the onion skin, so to speak, and said, how can we help these guys? And we didn't have a solution right out the gate. Actually, it's like how the brand got started and all that's kind of funny. But I was going into the gym one day, and we had this on our mind so much. And as I get in the parking lot, I go inside, and we were trying to think of a name before anything. And I don't know why, because it's kind of ass backwards. But I was like, man, maybe we're this brand that is like, all things living your best life.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want these business owners to really do. Because you get into business ownership because you don't want to work for demand. You want to have control of your schedule. You want more financial freedom and all this shit. And you end up having, honestly, more baggage than you've ever had before in most cases. You're not used to working, managing a ton of people. The demands are way higher than what it was the man in a 9 to 5. The financial freedom's terrifying within the first couple of years, says it doesn't exist. So we were like, how can we take all of that and truly help these people? So we loved the name Best Life. And then, we liked the idea of joining it with group, because we wanted to, in time, add all these additional services where we could help people. And then through a really good relationship, and obviously a lot of great deliverables on our end, we connected with Rob, who was the co-founder of ERS. And he was a good friend, still is, with Michael for, at that point, like 10 plus years. Rob invited us out to ERS out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We unpacked with them and their team, like, hey, this is what we want to do. And Rob was like, man, you should do it. Like, this is something that the industry's needed for years. I trust you guys. He's always looked for an opportunity to work with Michael. So he said, be a part of ERSCon. I'll give you an hour, to let people know what you want to do. And, expect 50 customers like right out the gate. So Michael said, yeah, this sounds great. And me being the day-to-day guy that was going to manage everything, I was like, well, yeah, this sounds great, except we don't have a fucking team.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, it's me. I'm like, there's no way we can take on 50 customers right out the gate. And Michael's like, no, man, you got this. And so I'll never forget, we leave their headquarters. I ended up stopping at a liquor store that's got bars on the window, like not the place you wanted to be at. I get a bottle of vodka, I go sit in the hotel lobby with him, and like my anxiety is on overload. And I'm like, I know there's so much potential and opportunity here to help people, but I've got to steer the ship. This is all new. And I was, for whatever reason, I was terrified that I wouldn't be able to replicate it
Yeah.
and help people like we wanted to. And I never wanted to be like called a fraud,
Yeah.
because our heart and intentions are definitely in the right place. Now we just needed to multiply. And so yeah, Rob gave us the opportunity that he spoke about. We pre-recorded our like 1 hour spot with them, because we were trying to avoid any technical issues, and it was a nightmare. We couldn't get the sound to work. The 1 hour spot took actually like 9 hours to put together. Our recording equipment fell at one point during the thing. We had some really funny outtakes and stuff, and it all ended up working out. And then it was finished, and we had this expectation of all these people joining, and then it was like crickets. We we had a couple of folks reach out that were interested in some services. Sticker Shock, honestly got their attention. They were like, "Man, this is just too much for us right now with where we're at." And then, I think through proof in the pudding, so to speak, and who we were as people, some of the individuals that actually came out on their own the year prior actually said, hey, let's do this thing and let's see what it looks like. So we, within a couple of weeks, had 4 customers. Nothing crazy, but it was enough to start basically bringing in enough revenue to start building a team. And at that point, we put together a really small team. It was, really tight knit. We actually worked inside of the Jumptastic operation at that point, in a couple of different offices there. And then a lot has happened since. But yeah, man, that's kind of how this thing came together.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because when I first started, and I'm actually going to tell you something that you didn't know, a lot of people don't know, but when I first started, my first client, because for a while I started with zero, I didn't have any future prospects. I had a bunch of technical skills, but I really had no idea what to do. All I knew was at that time I had a girlfriend. I was going to, like, we were looking for a place, but I had no money. I needed to make something happen. And this first customer that reached out to me actually was looking for a different person, right? So I it was like 350 a month, but I was so in shock that I went to lay in my bed and I was like, holy fuck, am I going to be able to do this? And I was so close to sending her back her money and saying, no, this ain't gonna work. And then the next day, I got all up. I got into it. My reputation started kicking. Big guys started to give me a shout out. And this wasn't in the bounce house industry, by the way. This was in,
Yeah.
but then I signed on a Chinese school for some reason. I didn't do any. But in 2 weeks' time, I went from being broke to like 5K a month. And it was funny because my third client was David Dutu. Was my
Okay.
third client. Yeah. I was working on his wife's website at the time, but it didn't last long because he was doing SEO at his by himself.
Yep.
But we always remain in touch. That's why for a long time I was working behind the scenes for him. The main reason
Mm.
why I created Irons, the main reason why I went on my own, is I actually didn't like it because I take loyalty very fucking serious. Like I think that it's better to win together again. But I had different visions in the sense of I thought that all the negativity wasn't worth it. Picking
Yeah.
fights with everybody, picking sides. You know how divided the bounce house industry is. I didn't feel like that was a solid move, and I figured if I'm going to be who I am, then it's far better for me because I can play the entire board. I can get any customer because there's no side to pick. I like everybody. Um, I explained to him, he didn't like it, so that's when I start irons. But yeah, first time I got my first client, that's when I really shit my pants. But I really scaled up from there, and then I got my first 5K client, which was awesome. And that's actually funny because I went to America to visit that guy, and you said you wanted to step out from the salesy kind of sales process.
Yep.
Um, I remember like we went to the airport way earlier, me and my girlfriend on our way back to Belgium. And there was this book, Mastering the Complex Sale, second edition, and she pushed me to get it. She said, like, get it, you're gonna miss out if you don't get it. And she was right. I read the book. It was all about not being salesy, actually being value driven and
Yeah.
helping your customer. And from the moment I got home, that's when shit really started scaling. So yeah, I think that's it's funny how most people when they start out go through that process, where oh my god, am I going to be able to handle it? Holy fuck, how am I going to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty inspiring. Now best life is growing consistently. What I love most is that obviously you're sharing a lot of value, but you're also doing a lot of stuff for yourself, right? Like recently you're doing this 75-day diet. How is that going for you?
Yeah, so it's more than that. It's not even my first time through. I got marketed to, so this is how this all started. It was some ad I saw on Facebook about just basically being a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need this. I ended up buying the book as I'm sitting there drinking a vodka on my, couch watching TV. And book comes in, it really resonated, and I'm like, man, I got to do this program. And it's basically 75 days. Yes, diet's a part of it, but it's two workouts. Both are 45 minutes. They're 3 hours apart. One has to be outside, rain or shine. Um, you've got to make sure that there's no alcohol or cheat meals. You've got to follow a diet in which you establish. You got to read at least 10 pages of a book that's nonfiction, more like self-help type stuff every day. And you've got to take a progress photo. And the reason they're so strict with it is they want people to understand like mental toughness and discipline. So some people get frustrated with like it's pouring. Like the other night I went out and it was, like 42 degrees and like raining dogs and cats. My wife's not doing the program this time through, and she's like, yeah, have fun. And she's also like, you have nothing to prove. You've already done this. I'm like, no, I've got to prove it to me. And the whole point is life's not perfect. It's always going to throw things at you. But if you really want to accomplish shit, like you've got to be disciplined and stick with it. So yeah, today's day 75. It went really, really well outside of some injuries inside of the gym, but I'm good. But no, man, it's a constant battle. Like as I'm sure you know, man, it's not just trying to be really great inside of the business space. You've got to be, kind of selfish with your time and how you take care of yourself, because if you're not operating on all cylinders, you can't do it for your clients, you can't do it for your girlfriend or family, you can't do it for yourself. And it all starts with you.
In general, it's like you said, right? It's discipline is so essential, and for people not knowing this, discipline is a self-learned behavior. You have to learn it.
Yep.
Thing is, you're not going to learn it by, oh, you know what? I'm gonna start dieting and I'm gonna cut out everything, and that's what I'm gonna do. Sure, that's gonna work if you have the discipline to do it. But if you are
Yeah.
like back in the day, I was really big, um, that was never gonna work. I how would I have the discipline to stay off everything that I loved so far and still go work out? No, first get outside, start running, and once you do that
Yep.
consistently, do that, start focusing on duration. But it's also funny you said that you do this for yourself, and I would say that's the most important thing. Like when I was running my marathon, my mom was like, "Why are you doing this? You don't have anything to prove." But my stepdad, he actually understood it. It was personal, you know. It's you. You're not trying to beat any. That's why I don't see competition as competitors. The only person I'm trying to beat is me.
Mm-hmm.
Beating somebody else, that's always fun. Being trying to be the best, that sure, you're not going to compete, like you're not going to survive in business if you're not constantly trying to improve yourself. And what way is better to improve yourself than having competitors you're trying to outgrow, but in the same sense, doesn't always have to be with hostility. So the only person I'm really trying to beat is me. Like
Yeah.
you always gotta be that better version of yourself. And if you're good at business, that's great. But if you are in the meanwhile neglecting your personal life and your mental health and your physical health, because physical and mental, they are so closely connected.
Yeah.
If you work out, believe me, you will start feeling better. Now, of course, there are some problems you have to figure out for yourself, but if you start working out consistently, you will feel better. And if you're neglecting all that because you're making money, yeah, most people in the end, I bet even you at this point, like most people, they are not in business anymore for the money, but just because they genuinely love what they're doing.
Yeah.
Sure, the check comes in, and that's great. You need money, but it's not that I need more money to like. It's not that I'm chasing it. It's great to have it. It's not that I'm chasing it, because in the end, what I really care about is I love the process. I love doing all that. So yeah, I would say discipline is so important, but I wouldn't be able to do the 75 diet. I'm sure of it in the sense of I well, I'm very strict on certain things. But like working out outside, no, thank you. No, seriously, like literally 2 days ago, I had a car crash, like a car crash, flat tire, and it
Yep.
was on the highway. It was -9 degrees, but I was driving to the gym in my shorts. And but you can't stay in your car on the highway. You're not allowed. So I had to stay there for an hour and I was freezing. I was like, never am I gonna do this again. Fuck
Yep.
you. I hate life. Yeah, I agree with that. I think mental health, physical health is very important. You said you read books, like you read consistently. Are there any books you recommend?
Man, I hate when people ask this question because people like go to all like the cliche stuff that everybody says. Um, One of my favorite books that I recently read was The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Um, I'm not going to get the author's name, but what I loved about the book was it really talked about all of the things inside of building a business that people don't necessarily take into account. He's a big fan of like, I mean, all the gurus tell you, and I'm sure you've read their books that like, hey, here's how you get through X, Y, and Z, which is great. But I mean, even from a coaching perspective with people that we work with, I mean, you can give people theories and strategies and all this stuff, but I mean, you want to give them something that's real, that
Yeah.
you've actually been through and how to actually solve the problem. So he just did a really great job through storytelling and some just really great explanations of how to get from A to Z, especially in the tech space. How to accomplish these things. And he had some just really cool analogies that I really loved. I thought one of them that was funny towards the end was the greatest management movie of all time, which he coined of Freaky Friday. Um,
Oh, it's
it has Lindsay Lohan in it, and it's a movie from like the early 2000s, and it's yeah. Anyways, it's not what you would expect as far as a management movie is concerned. It is just a joke, but he literally the mom and the daughter change places and kind of live each other's lives in each other's lens. And he took two heads of one of them, the customer support team, and the other was the engineering sales side, and they were butting heads. And by him flipping their positions, basically, they got to see what it was like to live inside of each other's shoes, able to come up with a strategy to fix things, and it worked together really well after that. But other than that, what I'm reading right now is Radical Candor. Really great book. I think the world needs this. It's not even something that just management need. But the ability to care and be compassionate enough about people to be honest with them,
yeah.
and not honest to hurt feelings, but honest to drive results and make somebody better. I think people are just honestly too much of a coward these days to do that. Part of my style is just honesty, straightforwardness, and transparency. So it's a nice, kind of using that in my toolbox.
No, I completely agree. In fact, my oldest brother once said that like I used to pick a lot of fights with him because I was bigot, and most of my family they thought it was good to like, oh, all right, he's sad, so I'm just gonna let him be him. But my oldest brother, he always said, Brent, you shouldn't eat that chips, that's bad. So I started hating. And one time I said, dude, I really hate you. And he says, it's okay. And like, I don't mind being the villain if it makes you a better person. And nowadays I have all the respect for him. And I totally agree. It's better to be honest with somebody. Sure, you don't have to be mean for it. He wasn't mean to me either. You don't have to be mean. But if you're going to put up with some bullshit because it's gonna hurt their feelings, or you are afraid that it is gonna hurt their feelings, you're hurting their lives for a longer
Yeah,
time, and that's far more that's far worse. It's far better to be honest as well. Like in general, if you're honest, you don't have anything to hide.
yeah.
uh, and so that there's less time spent on that. In fact, I really recommend you read the 12 and a half from Gary Vee, because he really
Okay.
goes in depth on that. And I completely agree. I think sometimes it's better to be the bad guy by being honest. Well, I'm 99% of the time honest.
Yeah.
Sometimes a bit too honest. So
I think the saying goes, everybody wants you to be honest until you're honest with them.
exactly. I think honesty, it's underrated, because a lot of people nowadays, it's like you say, they're cowards. They don't like, everybody knows what has to be done.
Yep.
If you want to improve, they know exactly what has to be done. uh, they just don't want to do it. And nowadays we live in this world where anything offends everybody, in the sense of everybody is a hero, and if you say something wrong, then you hate them, you despise them. No, that's not true. I'm just saying that if you continue this road, it's gonna be bad for you. So like in some cases I sound fat phobic, or I sound rude. That's not true. It's just that I've been very big, and I tell you, at my biggest, my stomach, it had a split in it. Like I had a bunch of health problems. I know the dangers of it. So when I say to somebody, let's say from my family, you have to lose weight because otherwise it's gonna hurt you. It's not that I actually think you have to lose weight. You're not pretty or anything like that. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, otherwise you are going to suffer. It's actually gonna hurt you. So yeah, it's better to be honest, even if that causes you to lose friends. And then yeah,
100%.
exactly. For best life, you have the summit coming up, right?
Yeah.
Are there anything you're looking especially forward to?
Honestly, the whole thing, man. So and just to give you an idea, like last year, we had mentioned it. We knew we were going to do it. And we had so much go on between IAPA, which is a big deal in this space, to the summit, that with all of the growth and client share that we took on, I didn't pre-plan enough ahead of time.
Yeah,
So the summit was good. It could have been way better. So going into this year, I mean, I started planning 6 months ahead of time. We got all the speakers and stuff locked in, like, I mean, 3, 4 months ahead of time. And I wanted to make sure, because we got some feedback last year from the summit that I strongly disagree with. I'd love your opinion too, but we had some speakers from outside the space come in, and they shared feedback about building a personal brand, and things relative to that. And some of the feedback was, hey, I don't know why we're taking advice from anybody who's not in our industry, because it's not going to help me.
yeah,
And I think that's such a short-sighted way to look at business, because you and I, even though we're across the pond and we're even in the same space, even if we weren't, we're all in the same business, which is serving people.
exactly.
And if you don't understand people, you're ultimately going to suffer. So I'm sticking with my guns this year. We've added more people who are absolute powerhouses in their own regard. Honestly, inside of marketing as well. So we've got competitors that'll be speaking at this thing. Some business owners who have got almost 9-figure businesses at this point that'll be talking about all things scalability and growth. Um, so if you come to this thing open-minded, you're going to learn a shit ton just about business in general and how to be a better person. If you're closed-minded, then yeah, don't come. Like, you won't gain anything from it. And then I even posted something the other day. If you don't learn anything, Not only will I give you your money back, but you should probably teach next year.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's very fucking, excuse my language,
No,
but
you're good.
very fucking stupid for people to say, yeah, what am I gonna learn from somebody who isn't in the space? A whole lot, you know. Um, even today, like I have agencies in different industries, right? And the reason I don't do them under one agency name is because it makes branding for me easier, but also I like to test different stuff. You know, like for example, what is working for Irons? Is that working for Go Dumpster? Is that working for my wedding planners agency? So I need to see if they all work together. Because, for example, I don't get away with the stuff I do in the bounce house industry as well as in the legal industry where I'm also active.
Yep.
Um, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't listen to somebody from an entirely different. Like, for example, I've had plenty of absolute big, even far more superior marketeers on this podcast than I am. You know, and of course I'm going to listen to them. They're not in my industry, that doesn't matter. They are good at my craft, and
Yep.
that's what's important. And if you think you won't listen to it, you won't learn anything from somebody who isn't in your industry, that arrogance is gonna cost you
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah. So that's yeah, it's sad because that often happens. People get really cocky.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, what I also see in the bounce house industry, what really frustrates me is it's a very liable industry, right? In the sense of if somebody breaks their leg, the bounce house company is liable. Sure, there's a damage waiver and stuff like that, and there are waivers for that. But they're not legally gonna help you that much. Um, but so many people actually don't protect their assets,
Yep.
and that's really um, frustrating to see because there's a bunch of money that they can lose that way. And yeah, sure, money doesn't matter, but that's a life work, you know, that's their life work they're about to lose if they screw up. So yeah, I see the lack of that. Is that something you've taken into account, like protecting your assets? How are you doing that? If that's something you can go in depth on.
Yeah, for sure. So won't necessarily give anybody any legal advice, but um, in that niche specifically, like you mentioned, yeah, there's a lot of liability, but there are ways to legally protect all those assets. Actually, Michael, the co-founder of Best Life Group, he's done a phenomenal job in doing that for himself and setting up, various different LLCs and corporations. So there is,
Yeah,
basically barriers and not because he's doing anything negligent. But the reality is, I mean, something that he shared with me years ago at a John Deere conference. They basically said if you want to get sued, you just need to have two things: you need to be successful and you need to have money.
exactly,
Like
exactly,
it's bound to happen when you have those things. And I'm sure you're familiar with it, and we see it all the time over here too. Um, the legal system and all things suing people. I mean, it's basically a money printing machine. If somebody's upset with you, they can find a reason to sue you.
exactly.
So yeah, I'm with you. I think this space and really any business, make sure that you've got good legal counsel. Make sure that you've got a good foundation of not just putting everything under yourself for obvious reasons, and some layer of protection. Because if anything does happen, as a brand's concerned, you want to be able to bounce back quick and have the littlest liability possible.
Yeah, so for people listening, what's very important, especially if you're in a very liable business, but in general, I get that it's very difficult when you're starting out because your budget is limited and stuff like that. I understand, but once you do have the budget, what you need is a company that's gonna hold your money, that's gonna hold all that stuff. You know, that's gonna be the capital company of or what Israel actually mentioned. It's another guy I interviewed. It's a great affiliate marketer, really the best of the best. Is you have to have a holding company, you know, because when you're if your bounce house company gets sued and it's probably not gonna be your case, or if your company is gonna be sued and even if you lose everything, you can just go bankrupt, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and your money, your assets, they're all safe. Just start a new company. That's fine. your company that's bankrupt, that's over. It's great, but your money and your assets, you're protecting yourself. You have to do that because
Yeah.
I don't care how good your business lawyer is, and they're not giving you that advice, then you probably should switch over, because
Yeah.
especially in America, they're very, like in Belgium, people are scared to sue, in the sense of
Yeah.
we are the kind of people who oh my god, did you see that, did you see what he's doing, but we don't say anything, or well, most people in Belgium. I'm actually I'm the kind of guy that says, why the fuck are you doing that, like
Yeah.
but yeah, in Belgium, suing is less important. And just to give you a good idea, Apple, they are not serving chargers anymore, right? And they actually get sued over that every year, but they're making more money than they're losing on the lawsuits. So they're making more money from selling you chargers separately than they are making, and then they're losing on the lawsuit. So why wouldn't they do it? Why wouldn't they? Like I think they lose approximately, and I might be wrong, 6 million in lawsuits every year, but they're making that the quadruple, amount
Yeah.
selling that. So you have to protect yourself. You have to make good choices, and the lack of that often is, yeah, scary, very scary.
100%.
Yeah,
And I think in this space and in just small business in general, I think, and you'd mentioned, not all of them have enough of, financial ability in the beginning, but I think once you start getting that thinking with the end in mind, if you want to be bigger, you really need to start thinking like a bigger company, not a small business. So yeah, I mean, creating those protections and having a good legal team on your side is paramount.
yeah, and if you are starting business, at some point you need to take some financial classes. At least I think that's very very useful.
Amen.
Yeah, because for example, most people they buy their inflatables, but they buy that with actual money. Like I personally, if I would do that, I would get a loan, and the reason why I would get a loan is because you pay that loan monthly, right?
Hmm.
But it takes one rental to go out to pay that loan for that month in most cases, unless you're one of the cheapskates. But let's say two, three rentals on average. So in the meanwhile, you're like, there is a difference between bad debt and good debt, and good debt's making you money. That would be a version of good debt. You're making your money once they're getting out of date. You want to switch your inventory around. You sell your inventory again. You have made back partially your investment, and you will just, with what you sell, you will pay off the rest of your loan. That's great. Rinse and repeat. But this way, you don't have to put in too much capital up front, and I think that's why you need to get financial classes, is to know how to manage your money. Like I see a bunch of people say, I'm gonna buy this, I'm gonna buy that. No, think about what you're going to buy, see how you can do it in a way that makes sense, and if it's gonna make you money, then you probably are doing a good job. So, yeah, I think financial classes all the way. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I said amen. I totally agree. I think having some sort of like financial acumen is paramount as a business owner, and it's something that we see a ton of opportunity with in this space, even when businesses look like they're doing really well on the outside. But I am not our subject matter expert for all things finance and money. That's totally Michael.
I I'm not the best at it either. But I do have, like, I did used to have a really good mentor. He's actually gone offline, but he used to have one of the biggest financial sites you would ever see. I think he sold it eventually for a couple of millions.
Okay.
Shane Reiner, you might not know him. I don't think it's Reiner. It's a difficult name to pronounce, but he was really good at what he did. And
Yeah.
yeah, he always recommended, get some financial classes. And the reason that's important, I think, is, Gary V illustrates this very good in a book. He makes this situation of where a guy partners up with a friend, and eventually he finds out that his friend is taking money from the company that he shouldn't be taking, but it's his job to know what's happening with the money, even if you have very little experience of that. So
Yeah.
I think knowing how your money works. You don't even have to be an expert at it, but knowing how it works is key if you want to eventually outgrow the I'm a small business concept. You know, that
Yeah. And
uh,
I think that in general for any small business owner or even like a CEO, understanding all the different bits and pieces of the business, you don't have to be the best at them, but you need to have an understanding at a foundational level because you're right. Like if you don't, yeah, if you get in bed with a CFO or a financial planner and stuff and they're embezzling money or doing the wrong things or a partner, that's not good. If you get in a partnership with a marketing company and they send a bunch of reports your way and tell you you're doing well, but you don't understand them,
yeah.
and then somebody else comes along the way and says, like, yeah, this is shit. That's not a good place to be, which I'm sure you know as well as I do. There's a lot of that goes on in this industry. But regardless, of the side of the business, that you're managing and operating, you've got to understand the whole picture.
And it's funny you say that because I think it's in marketing in general. You'll always have people that look at your stuff and they say, this is absolute shit. And I had that recently happen to me. Like this client was going off on me like, Brent, your on page, it's shit. This SEO says it. But I record my own page, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
here's what I based it on. And so like he apologized to me, so that's a good thing. But that always happens. Everybody knows it better
Yep.
instead of trying to learn from it. That's so ridiculous. But yeah, and then you also have the kind of people who don't report. That's something I find to be disturbing. How much time do you spend in reporting?
Oh my gosh. So we've done everything we can at this point. Well, I'll give you an idea and you'll get this. So early on, we did everything at a manual level.
Yeah,
And although we used analytics and a bunch of great platforms, we just kind of copy and pasted all the stuff in that they needed to know, et cetera. And it was archaic as all get out. Well, we went from like 4 customers to 50 customers. That had to change unless somebody just wanted to do analytics all the time. So at this point, everything's automated that gets spit out. But I did learn that even with automation, people still want these personal touch points. So we actually go through with each client and record a video explaining everything to them. And then they have the opportunity to then touch base with us if they have any questions. And then moving into next year, we've actually hired a customer success manager, and her job, outside of making sure they get all the value that they expected in being here, is to make sure that, because I still witness it, and I'm sure you do, you think that with these videos and these reports, like they get it, they don't all the time. I had someone yesterday on a call say, I just don't think our Google ads are doing well. And I'm like, well, how the hell did this get past me? Because if there's anything that we consider below our benchmark, it comes to me, and his stuff never on there. So I pull it up and I'm like, do you just not know how to read it? And he's like, yeah, I have no idea. Like,
yeah,
we send you a report every month with a video, and he goes, I don't have time for that. I'm like, all right, well, now that you're on the call, here's what this means. So we get to the end and he's like, well, yeah, that looks like a really great return. This guy, and this guy have never been able to do that. I said, look, I don't claim to be that guy, and I'm not going to talk bad about him, but you look really good. So yeah, he was satisfied. But yeah, it's a mixture of automation and stuff down to a personal level because I think it matters.
I think automation is key when it comes to reporting. But it's like you say, you always have that one person who doesn't get it. And that's why like when I report, I provide everything I do as well as a step by step on how they can do it, just so that I know they're never gonna read it, but if they want, they can. I'm
Yep.
providing all the sheets with everything done. Again, they're probably never gonna check it, but they can. And then I'm going to go very in depth to the point where it's absolutely annoying. And the reason is I know they're never gonna read it, but if they don't understand it, they can just read it. And if you just go that step further with reporting, yeah, you will stand out. But
Yep.
it's a very tricky thing, I think. Yeah, it's because you always have this business owner that's either gonna be really cocky or really understanding or afraid to be an idiot. So they're gonna refuse to ask questions because they don't want to look stupid, and then after a while they get frustrated because they don't understand what's going on, even if they're doing great, and then they will leave and you're like, yeah, but you were doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever had somebody that just didn't know what was going on and left you for that?
Yeah, we as I'm sure you're familiar with, like not every client's a great fit. So you know, within a one of our like what we call our OGs, after his first year, he left. They were crushing it.
Yeah,
What was holding him back was their operational wherewithal and their ability to actually produce. So it didn't make a ton of sense to invest a lot of money in marketing if he was bottlenecking everything. But then, I mean, outside of that, you know, like you said, I've had other SEOs or, you know, marketeers come in here, so to speak, and say, oh my God, they don't know what they're doing. They're siloing this shit. They're doing that. The on page on this page is terrible. And you know, the client will reach out. And I mean, this has happened once this year. I sent this to somebody else. They gave me this report. All this is bad. I'm leaving.
yeah,
And I'm like, all right, well, if you want to leave, that's okay. You know, especially if we didn't do our job, but you know, at least let me teach you something, you know, before you make this transition, you know, as to why we got to this point. And it's funny, it's normally very early on in a relationship with somebody. It's you know, and you know this, there's a lot that goes into the foundation of all things SEO and marketing.
yeah,
And so as we're building all of this out and explaining it, yeah, you get another SEO that's involved or whatever that doesn't know what you're doing, and they're trying to sell their sellers services and look good. Of course, they're going to try to make you look bad. And then, yeah, I mean, in this instance, this guy left us high and dry, didn't pay his bill. And it's funny how it all comes full circle. He actually reached out to me yesterday. He also didn't pay his Google Ads bill. So they've been blowing him up. So I had to reactivate his account for him so he can get that taken care of. But yeah, it doesn't happen very often. But I will say generally when it does happen, it's from a lack of understanding versus a lack of results.
I think it's also very industry based, you know, like sure, I get the same thing in the legal industry, or as I said, the dumpster industry. But in this industry, and this is what frustrates me, and I'm gonna hurt a lot of people by saying this, but 90% of SEOs aren't SEOs. Just because
Yeah.
you learn a bunch, like just because you buy a fancy course or learn a fancy trick doesn't mean you are an SEO. And that's what's very scary with marketing in general, is there's no entry level, there's no, all right, I graduated, that kind of shit. There's no way to actually vet. And if you are a business owner and you don't understand marketing, it's going to be really difficult for you to understand who is fit to do what they're doing. And in this industry, particularly, there are a lot of people who learn like CTR manipulation or shady tactics, and then they
Yep.
rent somebody for like 3 months, and of course they will crash, but they're SEOs. And they have come at me for a while now. It's very laughable. But if you don't like, if you're sucking at the macro part of SEO, if you're not doing your link building, you're not doing proper on page, then you shouldn't even be remotely calling yourself an SEO. You know, these
Yeah.
parts are so important too. And I don't care if you're going to flip a landing page and change city name. You know, if you sure that's really cool, but that's not actual SEO. That's trying to be an SEO, lapping some stuff together you read somewhere.
Yep.
Uh, that's not fully grasping it. But the thing is that a lot of business owners don't have that understanding of SEO or marketing, and for them it sounds really logical when they say, yeah, but that doesn't make sense, you have to do this. So because all they care about is numbers. And then yeah, sometimes you get clients that are like, you're not doing anything. I'm like, yes I am, this is what I'm doing, you know.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that. It's actually it's a frustration I've had as of recent. I joined a ton of marketing agency groups just to be more involved in those networks. And I know you know this, but it is the easiest industry for like lack of barrier to entry to get into than anything else I've ever seen. And I get so frustrated when someone's like, "Oh, I'm in marketing." And then you find out what they do and you're like, no, you're just in Google ads, like that's all you do,
Yeah,
or whatever it may be. But no, I totally get it. People think it's easy to get in the bounce house space. You still have to have bounce houses to deliver. Here you need a phone,
yeah,
at a minimum a phone, and then a computer, and then people can say, yeah, I'm, you know, so and so a digital marketer. So yeah, definitely vet you know, people if you're on the consumer side of this thing. And then you know, big thing for us, you know, where I think we're a little bit different, and I'm sure you do a lot of the same thing. It's not so much to me about yeah, the traffic matters, but more so than that, as a business owner, what I really care about is how much money did I invest and what did I get back, and that's what matters most. So when
Exactly.
people come to me and say like, "Oh, my cost per click is through the roof," and I'm like, "Jim, you spent $1,000 and you got 15 grand in return. Why are you caring about cost per click?"
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's all about dollars and cents and money in the bank to me. That's what matters most, and that's where we use all the tools and tactics that we use to leverage decisions, because it's whatever is in the business owner's best interest, which 9 times out of 10 they want more money.
Exactly. And I think that's where you will eventually see the difference between good and bad marketeers. And I've seen that a lot in this industry.
Mhm.
Is if you are a business owner, you shouldn't care about your Google rankings, and that sounds very bad. You shouldn't care about how much you're spending per click. You shouldn't. What you should care about is how much is that click making you? How much are those rankings making you? I don't care if you're showing up for best bounce house in your city. If it's not making you money, nobody gives a shit. Sure, the SEO is going to tell you, yeah, you're ranking well. Yeah, nice pat on the back. You're not going to take that to the bank. You're not going
Yeah,
to feed your family with that. That's absolute garbage. You need to track your ROI. And I make it always so important. Like for me, it's very important to get Google Analytics set up so that
yep,
I can make sure that people can track what they earn with me. Just so that like they look at sites like Ahrefs and they're like, yeah, my rankings are then they're not particularly going up. No, but your organic revenue, what's coming from me, has gone up drastically. That's what it's about. If I wanted to rank you through the roof, I would have targeted the same useless keywords the other guy before me was
yeah,
targeting. No, I'm here to make you money. And I think that's indeed where the difference is at. But again, like what I often say is in this industry, especially banana industry, there's more so hobbyists than actual marketeers, people who done something for themselves think, hey, I got a system, I'm gonna replicate this, and it doesn't always work. But it's not about those who it doesn't work for. The people who do work for, they're going to shout out, and that's what gets them more clients,
yeah,
which is frustrating to see. But it's also, yeah, where good marketers stand apart. They track ROI.
yeah.
They're more focused on the actual money coming in.
Well, I think it super short story, but I think it's funny you mentioned it. So people are so focused on page rank and those kind of things because honestly, it's been the loudest marketers in the room that aren't necessarily the best that talk about these things.
Exactly.
You can get a page to rank really well and you can get a lot of traffic going to it, but if your bounce rate shit and it's not converting, then you're not going to be there for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So, and again, back to money in the bank conversions and all that is what matters most to me. But I had a guy the other day. At this point, he's a dear friend and client. Um, he's telling me on the phone, he's like, "Man, I'm frustrated. I looked up this city and this keyword, and I'm number two. I used to be number one." And I look it up, and I'm like, "No, bro, you're still number one." But I believe you. I'm like, at the end of the day, if you're upset about something, have a conversation. And he's like, how the fuck can I be upset? My business doubled year over year with working with you guys. I'm
Exactly.
like, well, clearly this keyword matters to you. And he's like, Dustin, I'll just be honest. It's my big fucking ego. And I laughed and he's like, yeah, he's like, I don't like this guy. He's like, it literally just comes down to ego for me. So I appreciated the candor and the honesty, but I think that's what it is with more folks than anything else.
Yeah.
They want the illusion of being number one in something versus I would rather be, the guy that's quiet, sitting in the back, that's making all the money as a business and not being a distraction and having fun with my family and doing the things I want to do outside of this.
Exactly, exactly. I think it's very ego based in a lot of cases. And yeah, same thing. I think it's far cooler to be the guy who does his thing, makes the money, and yeah, nobody knows about. Like I rather sit in the back than in the front and do my thing. I think that's very important. Anyway, we're running out of time. It was really a pleasure to have you. I learned a lot about you, which I look forward to. Um, is there anything you want to say to people listening?
Yeah, sure. Brent, thanks for the opportunity to be on here. It was a pleasure. And yeah, for anybody that's listening, big thing that really sets us apart is much like I'm sure with you, Brent, we really care. I put my money where my mouth is. If you're not happy for some reason and you don't have the deliverables that we've agreed upon, we don't even charge people at that point until they are happy. And then beyond that, we created this thing to be a full scale growth solution. So it's not just marketing. The financial side matters to us. Helping people from the operational and leadership side matters to us too. So it really is a full service solution no matter where you're at in business. And then, yeah, other than that, man, again, I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to jump on here. Sorry I delayed it for so long. And other than that, man, cheers to 2022 and excited about 2023.
It was a pleasure to have you. For the people wondering, I will paste Dustin's business site in the description. I really recommend him, and as I said, he's a competitor of mine, so that says a lot already. I don't often recommend competitors because it's not competition wise, just in a lot of cases I don't like hobbyists that much. I don't
Yep.
consider you an actual hobbyist. I consider you a good competitor. So if you're looking for somebody who needs help with their business, Dustin is definitely the guy to go to.
Cool.
So yeah.
Well,
All
thank
right.
you for that. Same likewise, and take care, everybody.
Take care. Bye bye.
Oh boy.